Hi everyone and welcome to my channel English Fluency Lab, where I help you improve your English language skills. Friends, in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the difference between the words across, along, through, throughout, above, over, below, under, and in front of and behind. Now friends, all these words are prepositions of position and movement. There are also prepositions of time, but that is a topic for another video. So let's dive into it straight away. Let us start with the word across. Now we can use the word across in two ways. First one, to describe a position on the other side of something. Now friends, that's very important, on the other side of something. And number two, to describe the action of moving from one side of an area to another. Moving from one side of an area to another. So the first one is on the other side of something, and the second one is moving from one side of an area to another. Now let's look at position. Now friends, look at this photograph. You have a street, you have a playground on one side, and you have a school on the other side. The playground is across the street from the school, right? The playground is across the street from the school. That means they are opposite to each other, okay? They are across, okay? And hence you use the word across. The playground is across the street. That means, so if you have to go to the school from the playground, you have to go from here to here. We could see a village across the river, okay? So when you say across the river, it means that on the other side of the river. Now let's look at movement. I drew a line across the page. So let's assume that this is a page. This is an A4 size sheet. If I draw a line from here to here or from here to here, I am drawing a line across the page. He swam across the river. That means from one side of the river to the other. Okay, so that is the meaning of the word across. It is used for position and movement. Hope that is clear, friends. Let's move on. Let's understand the word along. The word along refers more to a line, 2 dimensions instead of 3. Let's look at this picture, friends. There are 2 railway tracks out here. We walked along the railroad tracks. Now walking along the tracks means that you're walking parallelly, right? You're not crossing from one side to the other. You're walking parallel to the railway track, along the tracks, right? We walked across the railroad tracks. That means we are walking from one side to the other. I just covered that earlier, right? There were guards stationed along the border of the country. Now let's assume for a moment hypothetically that this is the border of a country. And if you say along the border of the country, that means they are stationed parallelly, right? There were tiny flowers along the edge of the plate, right? Let's move on to the word around. Okay. The word around can refer to something positioned in a circle around a central object. Okay. Something positioned in a circle around a central object. Let's look at this photograph. What do you see out here? You see a street performer and you see people who have gathered, right? Who have gathered around him. A crowd gathered around the street performer, right? So people like his performance. They are standing there and watching his performance. So they could be standing in a circle or a semicircle, but a crowd gathered around the street performer. Something positioned in a circle around a central object. Number 2. Going to various places in an area with no particular direction. We walked around the mall for an hour, but we didn't buy anything. Walked around the mall for an hour means that we went from shop to shop, but we really didn't buy anything. So that is the meaning of going around the mall. Number 3 is a romantic involvement. They have been going around for 5 years now, which means that, they have been dating for 5 years. They're in love with each other. They plan to get married. That is the meaning of the word around in a romantic involvement. Okay. So I hope you understand the meaning of the word around. We have covered across, along, and around. Now let's move on to through. Now the word through refers to 3-dimensional space, similarly to across. It also means to pass from one side of something to another. So that is a similarity with the word across. But whereas across is usually used with fairly empty space, through often emphasizes the surrounding objects, right? Now let's look at this picture and I will explain this to you with examples. We walked across the room, right? So let us say this white square is a room, and if I walk from one place to another, we walked across the room. We pushed our way through the crowd, right? So there's a large crowd and you're going through it, right? We pushed our way through the crowd. I went across the field, from one side of the field to another. I went through the forest, right? From one side of the forest to the other. So you see the similarities between the word across and the word through, right? Now let's continue we drove through the tunnel, which means from one side of the tunnel to the other, right? Now let's continue with the word through. We can also use through when something passes to the other side of some type of barrier. We can also use through when something passes to the other side of some type of barrier. The baseball went through the window, right? He drilled a hole through the wall, right? In this case, the barrier is the wall, but this carpenter has drilled a hole, so it has gone from one side to the other, and he can now see the other side. So that is the meaning of the word through. Now let us look at throughout. Finally, we have the word throughout. This means in every part of an area or continuously in a period of time, right? Two meanings of the word throughout: in every part of an area or continuously in a period of time. Look at this photograph, friends. Reminds you of the India T20 win, right? There were celebrations throughout the city, which means that in every part of the city. Here is a team on top of a bus, and there is a crowd gathered around, and there are celebrations in every part of the city, which means that in every part of the city, all the areas of the city, the cancer spread throughout her body, in many places in her body. It continued to rain throughout this week, which means during the entire week. Okay, so friends, what have we covered? We've covered across, along, around, through, and throughout. Let's move on to the next one. All right, let us start with above and over now. Now friends, we can actually use either above or over when one thing is at a higher level than another. One thing is at a higher level than another. Over is a little more common. There was an exit sign over or above the door. Now here is a door and there is an exit sign over, okay, over or above it. A chandelier hangs over or above the ballroom, right? A chandelier, there is a ballroom and there is a chandelier there. You can say a chandelier hangs over or above the ballroom. When two things are touching, we often prefer to use on or on top of, right? For example, my cat is sitting on my lap. Look at this picture. The cat is sitting on the lady's lap. It is touching the lady's lap, right? So that's why you say my cat is sitting on my lap. The blender is on top of the refrigerator. The blender and the refrigerator are touching each other. All right. Let's move on and stay with above and over. Now over is also used in many phrasal verbs of movement. I jumped over the puddle, right? Now here is a picture of a person jumping over a puddle, right? Now you may also say I jumped across the puddle, but the more common one is I jumped over the puddle. The tower of blocks fell over. A tower of blocks, let's say a child is playing with the tower of blocks and they fell over. Be careful not to knock over that glass of water. Be careful not to knock over that glass of water. Now, although both above and over can be used to mean more than, we typically use over. Let's take a few examples. Both of my parents are over 60, right? You don't say both of my parents are above 60. Okay, not very common. The temperature was over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Over 10,000 families have benefited from this program. Okay, so although both above and over can be used to mean more than, we typically use over in such sentences. All right, so that is the definition of above and over. Let's now understand below and under. Now below is the opposite of above and under is the opposite of over. Similarly, we can use either one to refer to something at a lower level. But under is more common. We always use under when two things are touching. Okay, please remember that we always use under when two things are touching. The subway runs below or under the building. Below and under both are correct. The backpack is below or under the desk. In this case, the two objects are not touching. So you can use below or under both. Your pajamas are under the pillow. Now in this case, the two objects are touching. So better to use under. So when the two objects are touching, you can use under. Let's move on and stay with below and under. We tend to use below when the word is at the end of a sentence, right? Let's take an example. I looked out of the airplane window at the ocean under or below. Okay, you don't use under, you use below. I looked out of the airplane window at the ocean below, not under. Under is wrong. The word underneath and beneath are alternatives to under and below. The word beneath is more formal. The contract is underneath that pile of papers. And she could feel the grass beneath her bare feet. Now friends, there's another video I have covered in my channel where I have gone into detail with underneath and beneath. But here I have just made a mention out of it. So friends, I hope you've understood below, under and above and over. Let's move on to the next one. Now let us understand near, next to and beside. So friends, the prepositions near and close to are the opposite of far away from. They mean that two things have a short distance between them, right? Now with this picture it will be more clear. When you say two things are near, that means they are close to each other. They are not touching each other but close to each other. When you say next to, they're almost like touching each other. That means beside each other. The expression next to is more specific. It means that two things are immediately side by side. Okay, as you look in this picture, a more formal word for this is beside, right? As you can see in the image here. My house is near or close to the university. My house is close to the university, or my house is near to the university. There's a table next to or beside the bed. There is a table next to or beside the bed, right? Let's continue with near or next to. Don't make these common errors. My house is close to the university. No, that's a wrong sentence. My house is near to the university, right? No, that's also a wrong sentence. There is a table next to the bed. No, that's also a wrong sentence. Now here is a chart. If you want to say short distance, you say close to or near. If you want to say immediately side by side, you say next to or beside, right? So that will be okay. So in this case, my house is close to the university, right? Okay, so don't make these errors. Let's stay on with near and next to. The preposition by is also sometimes used to describe two things that are near or next to each other. There is a table by the bed. You can also say there is a table next to the bed. Finally, we can use the preposition nearby as a substitute for near when it is at the end of a sentence. Please remember that end of a sentence. Do you know where the university is? I live nearby, right? Do you know where the university is? I live nearby. Nearby can be used at the end of a sentence. You can't say I live near, right? That's wrong. Okay, you have to say I live nearby. Okay, if you want to say near, then you have to complete the sentence. I live near to the university, right? Let's move on. I live near, close to it. As I said, I live near, close to it. Near can't be at the end of a sentence. Let's move on and understand the words in front of and behind. When you're looking at two objects, the one closer to you is in front of the other. The one farther from you is behind the other. When you're looking at two objects, the one closer to you is in front of the other. The one farther from you is behind the other. Let's look at this picture. Right, the elephant is in front of the chair. Okay, here is a chair, the elephant is in front of the chair, and the chair is behind the elephant. Okay, so that is the use of in front of behind. That's pretty simple. Let's now look at towards and away from. The preposition towards and away from describe movement. Towards is movement in the direction of something, and away from is the opposite. The girl ran towards her mother, which is in the distance is decreasing. And the boy ran away from the dog, distance increasing, right? You can actually use either toward or towards. They are completely interchangeable and both are considered correct, right? So that is towards or away from. Let us now move on to the next one. All right, now let us take the last set of prepositions, which are into, out of, onto and off. Now, friends, the word into implies movement from outside to inside. An enclosed space or area. The word into implies movement from outside to inside an enclosed space or area. So if you look at this image, into, something is going inside. Okay, so that means into. He came into the room, which means that he came inside. The animal ran into the bushes. Okay, which means that he ran inside the bushes. With some common verbs such as put, drop, throw and fall, you can use both into and in for the movement. I put the note into or in my pocket. Please throw the trash into or in the waste basket. Right? So with some common verbs like put, drop and throw and fall, you can use both into and in for showing the movement. Let us stay with this. The opposite of into is out of. Right? He went out of the room. I took the note out of my pocket. We move on to and off surfaces and certain forms of transportation. Sometimes we can simply use on for the movement, right? So we move on to and off surfaces and certain forms of transportation. Sometimes we can simply use on for the movement. The cat jumped onto the table. You can also say the cat jumped on the table. The cat jumped off the table, right? The cat jumped off the table. We got on or onto the bus. Both are correct. And we got off or off the bus, right? Both are correct in this case. So friends, I hope you've understood all the prepositions which I have taken out here. Now what I'll do is that I have a 15-question quiz for you. I would like you to get your pen and paper ready. And for every question, I am going to give you 5 seconds. And your choices are going to be all the prepositions which I have covered till now, which means along, across, through, throughout, above, over, in front of, behind, into, out of, onto, and off. So all the prepositions which I have covered till now, those are going to be your choices. So are you ready to get started? Let's go. Okay, here is question number 1. If you want to go shopping, there is a mall near or nearby. Now you have to choose the correct option. Your 5 seconds start now. Alright, the correct answer is nearby. If you want to go shopping, there is a mall nearby. Question number 2. The child is hiding behind or in front of a tree. Okay, the child is hiding behind or in front of a tree. Your time starts. The child is hiding behind a tree, right? He cannot be hiding in front of a tree. The answer doesn't make sense. Let's go on to quiz question number 3. My relatives live all the way through or across the country. Your time starts. My relatives live across the country. They don't live through the country, right? Number 4 coming up. She sat beside or towards me and held my hand. She sat beside or towards me and held my hand. Your time starts now. Alright, the answer is she sat beside me. Okay, right? Towards doesn't make sense. You can't say she sat towards me. I've already explained the meaning of the word towards. Quiz question number 5. We all got into or onto the car. Your time starts now. Alright, the correct answer is we all got into the car. Quiz question number 6. I peeled the band-aid out or off my skin. Your time starts. Alright, I peeled the band-aid off my skin. Question number 7. Everyone ran away from or out of the explosion. The correct answer is everyone ran away from the explosion. You can't run out of the explosion. Number 8. We had a picnic over under the tree. We had a picnic over or under the trees. We had a picnic under the trees, right? You can't have a picnic over the trees. Number 9 coming up. Put your suitcase in the compartment above or on top of your seat. Alright, the correct answer is put your suitcase in the compartment above your seat, not on top of your seat. Number 10 coming up. The player managed to get through or throughout the defense and scored a goal. Correct answer, the player managed to get through the defense, right? Number 11 coming up. The audience applauded as the singer stepped next to or onto the stage. Correct answer, onto the stage. Number 12 coming up. There is a path that runs across or along the river bank. Alright, the correct answer is along the river bank. Sorry about that. Question number 13. The guests stood around the table and sang happy birthday. The guests stood around the table and sang happy birthday. Alright, number 14, and I think this should be the last one. There are thunderstorms above throughout the entire region. All right, there are thunderstorms throughout the entire region. Okay, that's the correct answer. So friends, if you have found value in this video, please give me a like, please subscribe to my channel, and please do press the bell, friends, because I need your help in reaching 1,000 subscribers. I do put in a lot of effort to make these videos, but it disappoints me when you don't subscribe to my channel, and I feel that I'm really not adding any value. So please help me make my channel grow, and I will see you in the next one.